We have, can you
Hello.
guys hear me? Hey, Nate, how you doing, Nate?
Not too bad.
Outstanding. So you guys see this crazy hangout I started?
Yeah, I've been watching you for a couple of weeks. I saw you on Patricia's show, and I love your passion, mate. You just said in the chat, if you don't like it, but I was first one to type, love it. Your passion is exceptional. I love it.
I don't know. Maybe it's part of my culture because everyone in my family speak passionately. That's how they speak. I can't turn it off. I try to be that soft-spoken Urquhart Tolle kind of guy. I can't do it, man. I can't.
You were talking the other day about when you were. I don't know you well enough to detail this, but I'll paraphrase kind of what you were saying about being in business and owning a business and being quite cutthroat.
Right.
And then you sort of detailed your change in attitude. But while you were doing it, you were detailing how you had been, but you could feel the anger and passion just in you reminiscing about it. It was quite extraordinary to listen to. But you've obviously kept the fire in your belly, which is all that matters.
Yeah. I can't lose the fire for some reason. But what happens is when I speak about my past, I start remembering all the damage that I've done. And when I think about the damage, I get angry, or not angry. I get
Angry is probably the right word. There's nothing wrong with anger.
Yeah, but it's not an anger. It's more of a disappointment. I'm disappointed that it took me so many years to realize how much damage I was creating in my business life and in my personal life. It was like I had to go through a near-death experience to realize that people really matter.
No, I don't. Tell me what you need. Well, maybe I shouldn't ask that question.
Oh, no. I got a whole hangout about it. I used to be grossly obese, right? I don't know what it is in the English scale system, but I was 370 pounds, right? Morbidly obese. And I was in the midst of trying to lose weight, and I had a blood clot in my leg. And after having that blood clot, I was admitted in the hospital, and it was a near-death experience. I almost died. And that changed my way of seeing myself. Number one, I felt the vulnerability in my own life. I almost lost my children who were young at the time. I thought about all my potential losses, And when I came out of that situation, I changed my life. I started eating healthy. I became the vegan warrior, and I lost 160 pounds. And I became this avid.
And 10 years, man. I saw the photos. I think that was the same hangout. But
yeah.
Man, you look like 10 years younger. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that change, wasn't only a physical change, it was a spiritual enlightening, but it was also a shift in thinking. I probably would have been those globe earth guys that snipe you guys and try to tear you down with creative arguments and that kind of. I would have been that guy if I had stayed on that path, But going through what I went through changed and opened my mind to other possibilities.
Yeah, Cathexis had a similar story. It's I hope I say this right, a ketogenic diet. And he was essentially explaining that looking into the deception of food and medicine led him into the arena of flat earth. So it sounds like you've got a similar story.
Yeah, absolutely. I talked to him extensively about that as well. I think their control is not just manipulation of programming that people are pretty familiar with, the TV commercial. They're coming at us from multiple angles. They're coming at us from, the things we see on TV, of course, but they're also biologically trying to change us to be more susceptible to their suggestions. And I feel like that's how they're getting the public to be so in tune and in step with the narrative.
Something that I notice more I've had an on and off relationship with TV, but during an off period, if you want to call it that, I drive for a living, and because there's none of my own music in the van, I was listening to the radio, and it really occurred to me how much subliminal programming there is in music. I mean, I've been saying it for Flat Earth with Amber Plaster, saying, you know, it's wonderful, and ODD, it's wonderful, because this sinks into people's unconscious, whether they want it to or not. But then you realize that all day, every day, people are listening to the radio and pop music and being completely poisoned with whatever narrative the mainstream want to put out there. And you're not even conscious of it. You're just literally oblivious to it. You're just humming along, not realizing that they're, you know, they really are seeding some nasty stuff. I mean, you've only got to look at Bruno Mars. You know, if you, is it Grenade? I think the song's Catch a Grenade. If you listen to that story, what he's actually talking about is being in a relationship with a narcissist, somebody who treats him like dirt, and yet he'll do anything for her. You know, catch a grenade for her. Now you hear that, and you just hear a nice tune, and you hum along, but you don't realize what's actually getting into your conscious thought just by listening to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think all 5 of our senses are under attack. I mean, literally, because my whole argument is, we can only know reality based on our 5 senses. So to keep us in a state of disconnection to that which is real, they have to attack our 5 senses.
Yeah, Shaq said this. I thought, damn, I wish Martin and I just did a little piece on this, but Shaq pretty much said that. He's like, that's where they're getting us.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're more reliant on the suggestive programming that they teach us and that we absorb, if we rely on that as reality and they suppress our 5 senses, they can control us to do anything. You know, they can literally have us like the Borg or drones or, you know, robots, you know, just carrying through society without having a conscious thought at all. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, guys, I think what I'm saying, we already know. See, I think the truth is not something that is brought to you and you kind of, you know, absorb it and, oh, I finally found the truth. No, we are conscious souls connected to a source. Now, if you're a religious person, that means you're a spirit and you're connected to God. Guess what? I believe that's accurate, right? I'm not a religious person. I believe that we're conscious and we're connected to something greater than ourselves. And that connection is filled with that which is true. So that means anything that's alive is already connected or already has truth within it. So when someone is speaking and you connect to them, right? You're not just connecting to them because you like what they're saying or they're introducing you to something. Truth does not need to be introduced. I believe it's a removal of the layers that mask the truth within ourselves. I believe we already have it, in my opinion. You know?
I totally agree. I mean, when I've heard the words flat Earth, I mean, I will give all credit to Matt Powerland. He was the one that said those 2 words. But it wasn't that suddenly I just believed what Matt said or believed Matt's story. It was more that every single detail of life that I'd experienced and put to the back of my consciousness was suddenly brought to the forefront by just hearing those 2 words. In other words, I'd experienced flat Earth all my life. Right. It wasn't suddenly a shock to hear it. It's like, no, this makes total sense. I've already experienced it. I don't need anybody to define this any further. Obviously, you get addicted to looking at what other people have discovered along that path and where the deception has come from, why the deception is being perpetrated. That's fascinating. But the flat Earth bit was like, for me, I know this isn't true for most people, but for me, it was instantly obvious. As soon as I heard the words, it was like, yeah, I've seen it. I've been out. I've seen enough of the world to know it's all flat.
Right, right. That's a very, very good point. You know, I didn't even know Matt Powerland was the first person to do that. So you're educated. See, this is why I need people to come talk to me, because I assume that the Globers gave us that name. You know, you think it's something that we came up with?
What came up with what? Sorry, I missed that.
The title or the name Flat Earth.
Well, I don't know. I know for certain that flat Earth, the words flat Earth have been used in a ridiculing way. In other words, when Barack Obama talks about it, I think that's there because you need flat Earth in I say it's on a slow simmer. In other words, you need people to hear that term and have it be ridiculed immediately. Because if you don't, and you'd never ever heard of the concept, you hadn't been educated at school that the notion was ridiculous, that cave dwellers used to think that. If you hadn't had that, then you'd come to the notion and go, wow, this is perfectly reasonable. It's exactly what I observe. Instead, you come to the notion and already have the idea that it's ridiculous, and that needs to be there. Therefore, you need people to be talking about it. And you need flat earth maps in movies. You need subtle hints towards it. You need linchpin arguments planted in, like the azimuthal equidistant map. You need all these things to be put in there. And obviously, they spend a great deal of effort doing it. Same with the Illuminati programming. Yeah, you want to say something too, do you?
Yeah.
They want us to think they're all devil worshippers. You know, right. I've said this on the other show, Infinite Plane Society is pointing out that it's just one head of a hydra. You know, it's not just one scapegoat you can point to. You can't just point to the Freemasons or the Jews.
Right, right. Yeah, it's so much, man. It's so much. But it's like once they get us into accepting things blindly, they can manufacture whatever they want. They can manufacture anything, because if you can think it and sell it to the public, they'll believe it. If the public is not in tune with knowing that which is real through their five senses, you know, it's like, it's almost to the point where I don't believe anything without some form of, well, it's not even that I don't believe anything. There's things that I'll accept because I don't give a damn about it, you know. Well, it's not even accepting. It's like, yeah. So I heard a news report that, you know, they just had this bombing in the Middle East, right? Oh, okay. You know, I'm not thinking about that, right? But if I dive in to want to know if that bombing is legitimate, I don't start off believing it's true. I start off with, I am going to find evidence to support that this thing actually occurred. Why? Because it's kind of like having a friend that you know is an habitual liar. I don't know if you guys ever had someone in your life that you happen to be related to, or you love them or whatever, but they had a tendency to lie all the time, right? Those, how do you deal with those people in real life? Me, in my case, it was a cousin. I didn't believe anything he ever said, right? But I still loved him. That's how I feel about my country. I love my country, but I don't believe shit that it says because it has a propensity to lie every time it opens its mouth. So the burden of truth is on them. See, the way they try to position us, they try to push us in a corner to say, prove that the earth is flat. People always ask you, well, why would they do that? I don't know. I wasn't there in the room when they planned out the scam. I mean, I can't give you a why. I just can tell you what my experiences are. So as far as belief, the more we believe, the more trouble we get into. But at the same time, I understand why people would believe in various things. You know, to them, they keep that near and dear to their heart, and they don't have a means to show the evidence of it, but they still believe it. A good example would be religion. See, the whole concept of belief in religion has to do with accepting something without evidence. And if you accept something without evidence, that is a conscious choice that you're making. So I don't even have a problem with people that believe in religion. I have a problem when you believe something and you pass it off as reality, as factual, as real. And that's what you're doing with this globe argument.
Yeah, I've taken a totally different tact in the last couple of weeks when it comes to proof. You're going to have to excuse it's noisy toy day. I'm really sorry.
No, that's fine.
So,
that's fine.
In terms of, if you imagine some of the arguments you've had with Globers, they put in like a caveat. They accept. Yes, lovely. They accept that it's flat, but then go on to defy why it's flat. So in the case of surveyors, they say we take out C because it's nominal. Or in the case of going up on a plane, they accept you can't see the curve because you can't get high enough. In other words, they will preface their statements with it being flat first. So in other words, they automatically, if they're an intellectually honest glober, automatically accept within their statements that it's flat. So you don't have to provide any proof for flatness, because that's the starting point. So if they then say, well, you prove it's flat, it's like, well, you've already said that we start from it being flat, but it's not because of X, Y, and Z. So if you're saying we start from flat and then this is why it isn't, then I can do the same. I start from flat and then I don't have to do a damn thing. I don't have to explain anything. I've not actually made any claims at all at that point.
Absolutely.
You agree, don't you, baby?
That's fine. That's fine. This is baby's day. The baby gets to say and do what they want. That's all good. As far as the tricks, and like you're outlining their tricks on how they get us, or how they keep people believing in what they claim. But I think they're also tricking us into trying to prove our ideas, when really the burden of proof is on them. It's on them. It's not on us. See, guys, you got to understand, how do you prove a negative? How do you prove a negative? And what do I mean by that? I mean, if a guy tells you, I see God over there in that corner, right? Let's say a religious person tells the atheist, I see God over there in the corner, right? And the atheist looks in the corner, he says, I don't see no God. And the pastor or the pope or something says, no, God is right there in the corner. You're not looking hard enough. And the atheist guy looks and he says, I don't give a damn what you say. I don't see anybody in that corner. And the pope turns to the atheist and says, well, I see him and I know he's there. Prove that I'm wrong. You can't prove a negative. You cannot prove a negative. So no matter how much we argue, we can't prove that what they claim is not true. Why? We have no experience that it is true, other than what they claim. It's the same concept. And this is why so many people are gravitating to atheism against religion. But I think they don't quite understand that when it comes to religion, people are willing to accept things without evidence because they believe that even though we don't have evidence, it's still true, right? But in no way should that be confused for the tangible realities of the world. So when you look at what religious people say, for example, as literally being true, if the religious see it that way or either the atheists see it that way, that's where the disconnect comes. Now, if I told you I believe something, but I also tell you I can't show you that it's true, it's just something that I feel internally to be true, you know, that's why a lot of religious people talk about their spirituality and whatever. They're saying, I feel that this information is true. But most of them that's honest will never say that it's tangibly factual and it's something you can measure and shape and whatever. So the atheist is looking at what they're saying literal, but there's also some Christians or religious people that's also arguing from a literal position. And that's where the clash comes in. Let's not confuse that with what we're talking about. We're talking about physical experiences of the world. Physical experiences of the world, tangible experiences. To know anything tangible, you have to be able to show evidence of it in the objective world. They're giving us their subjective ideas and they're telling us this is how it is, but they're not showing you no objective evidence. It's a blind faith. You must have blind faith in NASA. You must for it to be whatever. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you're right. NASA is their god now. You know,
right.
Space is been changed from heaven to space, basically. I'm going to love and leave you, but much respect. You're doing a wonderful job. Really love the show. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I didn't mean to scare you guys and say I'm not a flat earther anymore. But what I really mean is I'm not going to accept the definitions or the identifier of what they call a flat earther. And I'm going to do that by not even saying that I'm not anymore. If someone wants to ask me who I think I am or what I cater to, I'm a realist. I'm a realist. I think that connects.
That's the trap we all fall into. I put it in quotes. I say flat Earth, meaning this right now, as much as you might not like it, is part of the air quotes flat Earth. It's not about the Earth being flat. That's something completely different. You know, this is the social scene, hangouts, discussions, debates, that encompasses a lot of globe heads, and they might not like that either. The fact that I'll call them flat earthers, but yeah. Thanks again. See you soon.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I mean, you just brought up a very good point, Nate. Everybody's a flat earther, technically. I mean, because the only way you can experience the Earth is flat.
That's it. We are flat earthers, whether we like it or not. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. See you later.
All right, man. See you later. Marty, is that you, Marty, or you busy? Okay. Well, very, very good points by Nate. I call him Nate, but his name is Nathan. Yeah. I kind of make nicknames up for people in the chats. Nathan Oakley, you know, real cool guy.